So I thought it would kind of be, I know Melissa and I were talking this week. I think it was this week. They're all the weeks blend together. Maybe it was last week. And Melissa, you were saying that your son got his own apartment.
Yes, and I say that with a big deep breath. And it's supposed to be wonderful, and it is, but it is very difficult. And I have been through this 3 other times. He will be the 4th, and there is not one thing about it that makes it any easier. I don't care how many times you've been through it. It is even when they're an adult and they're living in your home and then they move out, you're just so used to having eyes on them, knowing they're okay, knowing their car's running, they made it to work, all those little things that we kind of take for granted. And then when they're not right there where you can see them, and it's very difficult. I'm struggling with it. And truth be told, my husband's even struggling with it. I've caught him just standing in the doorway of his room with the door open, just looking in. And I went up to him, I said, "I'm so glad I'm not the only one doing that. I
No.
do that when you're not here." So even the dogs, it's so silly, but they go and hit his doorknob and they like make me show him, the room's
Aw.
empty. Like, okay, he's really not there. And he's not that far away. It's not like he went states away. But we're definitely missing him and worrying, and oh, it's hard. For sure.
I thought it would be a good idea to kind of talk about, because I know between the 3 of us, we are moms with children who are older. Not that we are older moms, but we are moms with children who are older. And I think that there's some differences. We spend so much time, maybe especially around the teenage years, where they're like, "I can't wait to move out," and you're like, "I can't wait until you move out." But just kind of talking about some of the differences and how I know one of our big topics that people love in our blogs is like, what do you do when you have an older child, and how do you support them? And we don't always know what's going on with them. And our culture is very much like, you're a failure if you move home. You're a failure if you graduate from like high school or college and you still live at home. And I mean, financially, it's so expensive to have support 2 homes. But maybe it's great that they live somewhere else, and you could kind of have a little bit of that distance. There's some things that I think for kiddos that they need to learn on their own, like the dishwasher does not load and unload itself. The struggle, I know my daughter will call me on her way home from school, and she's a teacher, and say, "What am I hungry for tonight?" That never ending "what's for dinner" question. So I think that that's nice, because when they're kids and I know my kids, I would be making dinner and they'd walk in the kitchen, they go, "Ew, I'm not eating that. What is it?" Like, you don't even know, and you're
Yeah.
so maybe that changes the struggle a little bit of, so I just thought this might be a good time to kind of talk a little bit about our kiddos and their adult form and all the joy that comes with it.
I feel like when our children get older and they move out, I think it's natural for us to worry, especially with our children that have mental health. I know that my daughter is in her 30s now, and that has not stopped. I think that we help them and guide them to get through their mental health journey. And sometimes I know for me, I've had to pull back and let her figure that out, kind of like not hitting rock bottom, but like taking care of that mental health the way that she can. You know what I mean? And then stepping in and saying, "I don't think it's working right now. let's figure this out. What can I do to support you right now? And asking them, because oftentimes I'd be like, hey, I think it's time for you to make that appointment. Or, and they're like, no, I don't.
Oh,
I
yeah.
I just had an experience with that this morning. I got a voicemail from the doctor's office, and they were calling for one of the children who've moved out to remind them that this is the second reminder of trying to schedule their yearly appointment. So the first time, like 2 weeks ago when this came through, I just copied it and sent it. And, like, this is for you to do now. Today, I called the doctor's office and said, you'll have to remove my number, put it down below his, keep it as an emergency number. And that was very hard. Not gonna lie, it was very difficult. And, you know,
Yeah.
I'm very proud of myself for doing it because I know it has to be up to him. And if he, all these things go through my mind. If you miss appointments and you don't keep them, then that doctor's office isn't going to keep you. Like, we know all those things can happen. And
Yeah.
I've told that child all those things can happen, that it's important to have contact and keep your appointments. And it, it had to be done. And I still feel a little bit bad. Like, I'm a bad mom for doing that. But at the same time, I know that responsibility is theirs
Yeah.
and they have to do it.
But I'm glad that you did that because I think that that gives them that extra layer of privacy.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
don't need to know when they have a doctor appointment. They might not want you to know that they're going to the doctor for a million reasons, and probably most of them are really harmless. Like, what do you care if I stub my toe? I'm going to the doctor, or who knows, right? But they deserve
Yeah.
that autonomy of you not knowing everything about them. And I mean, I do that with my kiddos when they get mail. I let them know that they have mail here. But unless they are explicit and say to me, would you, that's the parking ticket. Would you open it and send me a picture so I could pay it? I'm not opening it for them because for me, and especially like the way I was raised, like that was like a big thing with my mom is like, stay out of people's mail.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I think that
Mhm.
I think that some of those things are good um things to put into place to protect their privacy. But I also think that one of the things that I didn't do that maybe I should have done is maybe explain why I'm just telling you got a piece of mail, or I'm just sending you a picture of the envelope. Like, I want to give you your autonomy to not, like, my
Mhm.
kids are still young enough to be on my health insurance. And so after they go to a doctor visit, like maybe the bill or whatever aftercare bill, you may owe this much money, comes to my house. I don't open that. I don't need to see what doctor you saw, I don't need any of that. So I think that probably for me, I should have done a better job of explaining why, because I wonder if maybe they think that I'm just being a jerk and not just telling them what it is. But it's like a me kind of thing of giving them that autonomy. So I think that that's where I struggle is maybe there are things that I do that I do purposely to give people their autonomy, and maybe they don't know why I'm doing it, and so they may interpret it differently. I don't know.
I had just, with the insurance issue, I got a survey of how was my recent visit at MedExpress. Well, honestly, I want to know why you went to MedExpress. I do want to know, but I'm also going to treat you like an adult and give you respect. And if it's not something that you called me to tell me, then I have to trust that it's okay. You know, it, it's a fine line that you're walking. And I truly believe if we treat our children as the adults that they are and we start helping them see themselves that way, that boosts them, that helps them realize, well, I guess I am an adult. Like the doctor called me, not mom, and I don't know, it's just little things along the way that they deserve that. They deserve to be treated with respect and have their privacy. And um, I don't know, if you want to know something really bad enough, like I'm not above like going and sitting right on them. Like you, I'm not getting up until you tell me what is wrong, but like all those little things, like you gotta kind of let it go.
I feel, with my daughter, it's always been, can you tell me my history? Can you be at that appointment with me? Can I have your hand to hold while I go to these appointments? That's been very sometimes difficult um, because of the history that we've had. That I think that one thing that you were saying, Christina, kind of hit me was like, with my younger one that's going to be becoming an 18-year-old soon, is having that discussion of what that looks like, and teaching as a teaching lesson of adulthood that I know that I'm swimming in right now. Like, I know that that is my foreseeable future, what that looks like, and maybe changing some of the ways that maybe I handled some with my oldest daughter to my, soon to be 18-year-old. Good to know.
With our test kids. The older ones are our test kids that we're kind of we're learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, well, I mean, I have to say though, they say in when we do a biweekly newsletter and we create a whole bunch of materials and we try and tell people on social media the materials we have. And so when you're like learning a little bit about marketing, they say it used to be people used to have to hear things 7 times to get them to pay attention. And now they're saying it's like so much more, like 30 or more, because we have such a short attention span anymore. So many things competing for our attention and we just don't pay attention. I know with my youngest, I was all excited. I was like, yay, this is the very last IEP meeting I ever have to go to in their senior year of high school. And they sat in the meeting and they went, well, except for my IEP meetings in college. And I was like, I know, because I was there. I know I said over and over and over again, there are no IEPs in college. And, we went to the secondary transition conference and they talked about, post high school and all the things. And I don't know if it was maybe like a momentary, like they forgot or it hadn't sunk in or, whatever. But I was like, oh, dude, nope. No IEPs in college. So maybe we have to, as parents, make sure that not like we like nag them about it, or although what is nagging to somebody who doesn't want to hear something? But like make it really clear. I have told people that I had a mentor when I started a job a long time ago. And we were talking and she said to me, whenever you do something for someone, you deny them the opportunity to learn. And that was the right thing to say to me because that is something that's important to me. And shortly thereafter, I started making my children make their own doctor's appointments. I was sitting right next to them, refill their prescriptions, just because they're going to have to do it on their own. And I would always rather that they have a bad experience, a negative experience. They're not successful in a safe and protected environment where it's no big deal. We could pick it up and help them really, really easily. But like, like Melissa, like you were saying, if there's a case where you just don't make your doctor's appointment for like a year and a half and then they drop you off their patient list, that's a different, or like your psychiatrist where you think, I'm not going to confirm that appointment. I'm just not going. I'll go. And then you go and you're like, now you're on the 6-month, 18-month wait list to get back in for another appointment. Like it's good to have them learn those things because sometimes they have to hear things from people besides us. So sometimes when they hear the questions that the receptionist asks, like when I call to make a doctor's appointment, why do I have to tell the receptionist what my problem is? And then tell the nurse what my problem is so that somebody can call me back. So they probably need to learn some of those things by doing.
We're learning as we go. And what worked for one child may not work for another. Um, and sometimes it's the act of practicing it over and over until you get it right. And, there's always room for improvement. And if you try having these conversations and they don't go so well, or you step over a line, give yourself some space, some grace, and just say, you know what? And even tell your child, I'm going to do that better next time. If I opened your mail and whatever that looks like, whatever that is, that you share that, I felt really bad about that. I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to try to do better. You're an adult now. I need to treat you like one. And there's also, nobody knows our children as well as we do. Their legal definition of an adult and they're 18 doesn't always correspond with the person in front of you. So don't think about that number so much as, are they to that point yet? Are they functioning, independently that they can do those things? Because I think in society, there is a lot about the age, and you kind of hold that over a parent's head like, well, and the kids even do it. Hey, I'm 18. I can do whatever I want. Yeah, that's right. On paper, you're right.
I was going to say something back to you, Melissa, of when we're kind of having those conversations with our children. I've often, when I'm talking to my oldest daughter, reiterating that I am just doing it, or, out of the kindness of my heart, like in worry. And then also following up with, I'm only asking this question because. Is it okay that I kind of remind you of something? But, letting them do what they need to do, but then kind of having that question of, do you want me to be this, be there? Do you want me to remind you? So that's opening up a communication level with your oldest child as well, because I know that it's been a struggle for mine and my oldest daughter's relationship, because at one point her mental health got so bad that it really interfered with everything. You know what I mean? So we learned that was from that situation, that I'm there to support her and be there when she's needing it. And that she just needs to ask. Sometimes I might, also ask her, but that she knows that we're there. Right. I kind of lost my train of thought after that. Sorry.
Well, for me, and I think it really has to be a really personal thing. I think it has to go with it based on your relationships and who you are as a person and how life works for you. I have had a lot of situations in life where maybe I've said something that maybe somebody else wouldn't say. Like maybe I kind of laid it all out and said what needed to be said, whether it was ignored or, acted on or whatever. And I've had enough situations now where it's like later on down the road, I was glad that I said what I said. So sometimes, if I see something going on that I don't think is good, I'll say to my kiddos, all right, look, I'm going to say this because I'm your mom and it's my job, but whatever the case may be, but I don't think that they're a good friend for you, or, I'm a little concerned about, whatever. You've got to, I think you have to figure out what works for you and your family, and you can learn from it. Maybe what you learn is that there are certain of your kiddos, because we all know you can have two children, you could have twins and they could be very, very different. One child, you could say, oh my goodness, that outfit looks stupid on you. The other one you can't even say good morning to. Like, I don't know, like that happens. So I think that you need to adapt and adjust. And if you have a child who's just like, I don't ever want to hear, I don't want you to give me any, if I'm going to step backwards and step off a cliff, I don't even want you to tell me then. Like, just I'll do it on my own. They'll let you know, and then you could they've set their boundary, and you could respect it. But certainly for families, sometimes if you're in the throes of a mental health crisis, you may not know if you're crossing a line with drugs or alcohol. Like that's, as a parent, we might want to say that. Like, that's something I would never feel bad about saying. I'm not really happy with the way I see you handling this or that particular substance. I think that maybe you're self-medicating. I think that maybe you should talk to somebody and see if you could learn a better coping mechanism so that you're not that heavily dependent on that. I think that sometimes there are things that you're going to say that they're not going to want to hear. And then you just have to decide, like, that whole, is this a hill I want to die on? It's probably not a hill that I want to die on to say to them, you should wash your car more often. But, there's certain things like, I really think that you need to get back on your medication. That may be the reason why you're having a hard time keeping your job, whatever the case may be. But I think for every parent, you've got to figure that out a little bit. And I think what's nice, like for me, is for work, I could go to work on Monday and be like, hey guys, can we huddle? Could you give me your, what do you think about this? But
I love that part of our job.
Right. But other parents don't have to work for us. And they can call and they can kind of be like, I don't know, what do you think? And brainstorm and troubleshoot and get somebody else's opinion who might have a better idea. I think that's nice. It's nice to have somebody who gets it and isn't.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. Who isn't all like judgy.
And I think like that perspective of, there are things that you're the mother, you're the father, you're the caregiver. If nobody else in the world is going to tell them that, they need to hear the truth from you. You know them well enough. If they're doing something that's actually hurting them, you got to speak up and say something. And like you said, you're not going to regret that. 10 years from now, you're never going to regret that you said, hey, don't seem like you're coping too well with the job that you have. You're drinking a lot. Can we talk about that? Like this, and I always say to my kids, at my old age, I can see where that's going. I can see something that you can't see yet because you're in the place that you are. I'm trying to give you this, and it's not even advice or unsolicited. It's because I care. It's because I love you. I really don't care if you wear this kind of clothing or you dye your hair this color or how many tattoos or piercings. I don't care about any of that. Do whatever you want. But if I see you doing something that's harming yourself or harming somebody else, I don't care if you're 40, we're going to be having to talk about it. It doesn't mean they have to listen to me, but I'm going to be having that conversation.
Yeah.
For me, I think my oldest came to realize just that, what you just said, Melissa, much later, and had that conversation with me and thanked me. It was a very difficult time in our life, and it was hard. It was really hard, but I know that we did it for the right reasons. We didn't, stop our love. We were there unconditionally. And many years later, then she's looked back on it and said, I understand why you did that, Mom. And she's even said, like, I was not a very nice person in that time. Like, I wasn't listening, so thanks for standing by me. and helping me, right?